Alright, so I just saw The Batman last night, and I have quite a bit to say about it. So, going into this movie, I didn't really know much about it. I knew it was directed by Matt Reeves, and it had starred Robert Pattinson as Batman. I was a bit skeptical at first. I'm not sure that he would be able to pull the character off. I've not really been a fan of a lot of his films. I wasn't really a fan of the Twilight movies. But he really proved himself wrong in this movie because he played an absolutely amazing Batman. I'm not really sure how I'm going to stack this up against Christian Bale's Batman, but I do think in a lot of ways he was even better, a better performance, better role of what Christian Bale played. I mean, Robert Pattinson was super intimidating in this movie, like slowly walking, hearing his footsteps, and Andy Serkis as Alfred was great too. I mean, I'm not sure. I think I still might have preferred The Dark Knight's Alfred, Michael Caine, over this, because Michael Caine's version of Alfred was more. He was more like supportive and kind of like a guide for Bruce, always trying to guide him in like the right direction, show him the light. While this Alfred was kind of just constantly in like this negative mood, constantly warning him of dangers and how dangerous it is to be Batman. And I'm not sure if I am totally supportive of the way this Alfred was, but they were trying to be different from the previous version, so I can see why they did that. I also really liked Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I thought she was pretty brilliant as Catwoman. I was also a fan of Anne Hathaway's Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, but I felt in this movie she had a lot more to do. She was a lot more involved in the story. She was connected to several characters, and you felt more of an emotional connection to her than what Anne Hathaway was. She was cool, but she always just felt like she just like was there when she needed to be, and she was there when she kind of didn't need to be. She was just like a side character for Batman to bounce off of. So I did think this character was an improvement over that version. Now, let's get into the villain of this movie, because I thought the Riddler was an absolutely fantastic villain in this movie. He was absolutely terrifying, possibly even more so than the Joker was in The Dark Knight. I mean, of course, Heath Ledger's Joker performance is legendary. Like everyone knows that. But I don't think it's fair to say that performances like that can never be topped, because I mean, the Dark Knight is what it is, and of course another movie is going to be able to excel in different aspects than one movie is going to do. And I'm not totally confident in saying this, but I do think this movie is better than The Dark Knight in some aspects. Not all aspects, but some aspects. I found the element of Batman like being a detective, like he is in the Arkham Asylum games, was a lot more fleshed out and a lot more focused upon than it was in The Dark Knight. I mean, there were some detective elements in that movie as well, but with all the puzzles that Batman has to solve in this one, and the sit game that the Riddler plays with him, was very riveting to watch, and it's one of the most disturbing and terrifying portrayals of a comic book villain I've seen in a very long time, and somehow even disturbed me even more than what the Joker was. I mean, the Joker was he was crazy, but there was something very like he didn't have a plan, but he always explained who he was and why he was doing what he was doing, even though he didn't have a plan. While this person is just crazy, he's just completely unhinged, and he's like deranged, and he's a total psychopath, and he's just so, he's smart, but he's also incredibly deluded as well, and just always frightening when you see him come on screen, because you never know what he's going to do next. And this movie has a has a variety of twists and turns, and you really don't know where it's going to go until the very end. It's definitely not a predictable movie. So that was the biggest aspect of this movie that I thought was a step above from The Dark Knight, even though The Dark Knight was better in other things, such as the realism. And this movie is also has realism in it too, but it feels a lot more like artistically directed to look like Gotham. Like there's a lot of like Gothic architecture in this movie, and a lot of like old-fashioned British Gothic architecture, while The Dark Knight just kind of looked like a dark version of Chicago, because that's where it was shot. I did like the look of this movie. It's an incredibly dark movie, even darker than The Dark Knight in my opinion. And I would strongly probably say that you shouldn't really bring kids that are maybe under 13 into this movie, because I feel like kids under 12 and definitely little kids will definitely be a bit traumatized by some of these scenes that are in this movie, because the Riddler is really scary. So yeah, I really do have to credit Paul Dano's performance as the Riddler, because it was completely convincing of making him look like some sort of serial killer out of like Seven or Zodiac, and felt completely realistic but also insanely terrifying. And I just thought he was great as in that role. This is really the first time I've heard about this actor. I haven't heard about this actor in many other movies. I haven't seen him in many other movies, but he really impressed me in this one. And I do think that this is probably the second best villain DC has probably ever crafted. And stands up right there next to Heath Ledger's Joker. They're both great in their own different ways. I guess maybe one issue I had with the Riddler is that I didn't feel like there was enough background to justify his character. I mean, it was explained why he's doing all these things to Gotham because of all the because he feels like there are all these lies coming from Gotham and certain characters that I'm not going to spoil here, but it's never really, I mean, like his backstory isn't really revealed, like of how he became such a terrifying character. And of course, like the Joker from the Dark Knight had this same, not really problem, but like had this same treatment as well. We don't know about his backstory. He's just there to be a menace and to be evil, and that makes him scarier, I guess. And I guess we can have a few villains now and then that I like that, but I do like to like fully understand what made them that way, like the way Marvel does with their villains and did with No Way Home and with the Spider-Man movies. But of course, those are more, I mean, those movies have serious tones as well, but they're much more lighthearted than what this movie is. And of course, this movie isn't about redemption. It isn't about curing evil, or it's a dark movie about vengeance. So I did like how the tension between the Batman and the Riddler and how they bounced off each other. I did find that riveting, and it was very entertaining. But I'm just putting that out there that I do like villains that are not a total mystery. I do like ones that you understand why they're doing what they're doing. But of course, every now and then you need a villain who's just crazy, and some people like that. So I guess I'll just I'll take it as it is. So yeah, overall, I do think that this was a very outstanding movie from DC. It's definitely the best DC movie I've seen in a really long time. And I love this new take on Batman. I thought Robert Pattinson smashed it out of the park. The actor that played the Riddler smashed it out of the park. Catwoman smashed it out of the park. And even Andy Serkis was really good, even though I do say that I'm not sure I liked all the changes with this character. But he was still a good supporting character. So there are a few minor details, a few minor nitpicks, flaws that I might take away from this movie. Alfred, and I also thought the movie looked just a bit too dark. I'm not meaning the time, but just the way it was shot. It felt like there wasn't enough light in the picture to illuminate some of the people's heads and shots, but I know it was trying to be dark, so maybe that was the point of it. But apart from that, I think I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. It is really, really well done, and I do recommend that you should see this and think for yourself, because I thought it was fantastic. So see it and think and see for yourself.